19. "What is the meaning of this outrageous intrusion?" demanded Gaius Agricola. The guard squad commander looked unhappily at the distinguished, night-robed man who bore down furiously upon him. The broad entrance hall of the fine town house was already confused enough, with his own men trying to push past a line of bleating servants, without the owner's personal intervention, especially when he was the Equites, socially only middle class, but undeniably wealthy and influential. Not again, the commander thought. This was the third time tonight he had carried out such duty, and he had already worked out something of a strategy to minimize the unpleasantness. It involved rushing past whoever opened the front door with the minimum of explanation, but behaving as though it was all for the occupant's own good, and getting as much of the search done with before being forced to give the actual reason for what they were doing. He had found that people did not like the reason. Before the man could express himself further, the commander held up an impressively signed and sealed order. "My permission, sir. I regret I must search these premises." Agricola read the document quickly. "You are seeking Ptolemy Caesar? For suspected treason? This is utter nonsense. I know the man." "Exactly. So we must check he's not here. Just doing our duty, you know." "All right. Go ahead." The soldiers swept through the hall and spread out, some clattering up the stairs to the upper levels, others passing through to the gardens and the servants' quarters. Agricola watched helplessly. Then there came a commotion from above, and a knot of guards appeared on the landing, holding a confused and struggling figure between them. A matronly woman was pulling at their arms, crying, "He's my son! My son! Leave him be!" "Found somebody, sir," one of the guards shouted. Agricola rounded furiously on the commander. "That is my son, Lucius Salvius Agricola. Let him go at once. Can't you see he's a poor cripple? His mind's gone." The commander could hear the man calling plaintively to his mother, asking what was happening. "Let him go," ordered the commander sharply. "He's not the one we're after." The soldiers disengaged themselves, and Lucius's mother rushed to comfort him. "Go," Agricola Senior demanded. "You have my word that Ptolemy Caesar is not here. Please do not cause us any more distress." The guard commander looked him intently in the eye for a moment, then nodded. "Withdraw," he ordered. "Assemble outside. He's not here." Ptolemy surveyed the excavated cellar at the far end of the tunnel with interest. "Are there usable rooms upstairs?" "Oh, yes, Counsel. This way." Cassiodorus snatched up a lantern to light the stairs. In his eager anxiety to please, he was practically hopping from foot to foot. "Just a moment," said Ptolemy, turning to the others, who were lurking uneasily in the background, still dazed by the recent turn of events. "Understand that the presence of this tunnel is to be kept absolutely secret. There must be no clue as to its existence. While I'm inspecting the rest of this house, you can start to clear away the excavating tools. Have you somewhere you can be rid of them?" "The house next door's empty," volunteered Tyro cautiously. "We dumped some of the earth in there early on, but there's still room." "Good. Use that as a store for the moment. Then level and stamp down this floor. Try to make it look like a cellar again. And conceal the tunnel mouth with something, but make sure it's easily movable when we need to pass through." "There's a room heater with a backplate upstairs," suggested Decius. "That ought to cover it." "Fetch that down here, then." Ptolemy frowned. "Where did you put all the earth from the excavation? It can't all be next door." "Oh, no, Consul," said Cassiodorus, with a hint of returning pride. "That was only temporary-like. We got a privyman's cart and dumped it outside the city with the rest of the night soil. We sprinkled a little of the real stuff on top for the look of it, like, and nobody bothered us." "How ingenious," Ptolemy commented dryly. "That might prove a useful deception to remember. Now, let us see the rest of the accommodation." There were 3 serviceable upper rooms of reasonable size, which Ptolemy viewed with satisfaction. The street outside was narrow and secluded, with several alleyways opening off it. Half the street was given over to small craftsmen's workshops and stores, which were at present dark and quiet. "Excellent," said Ptolemy. "This will be the unofficial campaign headquarters." "Campaign, Consul? Are you going to war?" "In a manner of speaking, Cassiodorus. But it will be a war of words and ideas only, I hope. I am trying to win over the hearts of the people and make myself popular enough to challenge Alexander for power. But I cannot afford to go directly to those with influence for their support. At least, not yet. So I must first build my support amongst the masses. And you are going to advise me how and who to start with." "Me, sir?" Cassiodorus looked horrified. "Get involved in politics?" He spoke with a suggestion that it might be a profession beneath him. "No, really, Consul Ptolemy, sir. Straight thieving's my line. I don't know anything about—" "But you do," insisted Ptolemy. "You know who can be bought and who can wield influence and who can muster a crowd when required. I'm not going to play by the rules my opponents expect, you see. But, of course, if you feel the task is beyond you, I can always call upon the spirit again." Cassiodorus blanched. No, sir. Of course, I know those sort of people. I just thought you meant for a moment, begging your pardon, those fixers amongst the well-to-do and the aristos. I mean, those I really couldn't help you with. But for your ordinary folk, why, of course, I know who you want. It'll cost a bit, though, Consul." Ptolemy pulled a gem-studded bracelet and necklace from his pouch and dropped it into Cassiodorus's trembling hand. "Use this to begin with. Break them up first so they will not be recognized, then take them to whoever will exchange it for coin without asking awkward questions. I'm sure you know the sort. Whatever you do, call as little attention to yourself as possible, and don't indulge in any premature celebrations in the nearest tabernae. From the way you planned and executed the tunnel, it is clear to me that you have both perseverance and ingenuity, however misguided. I trust you do not lack self-control. Remember, Cassiodorus, you will get 10 times what you hold now if this succeeds, and a pardon for your crimes. Don't let me down." Cassiodorus's eyes glittered with reflections from the jewels. "I won't, Consul. You just wait and see." "Nowhere?" exclaimed Vitellius. The tribune maintained a carefully expressionless face. "Nowhere, Prefect. We've searched all the houses on the list, and his own twice, and he's nowhere to be found." "Is it possible he got out of the city before the alert was raised?" "Perhaps," conceded Vitellius. "Send out mounted parties down all the main roads as far as the first staging posts and hostelries, and check there for him. See if there are any records of friends from his army days who have property in the country he might make for. Meanwhile, keep all the houses so far searched under watch. He may try to slip into one of them." "Yes, Prefect. May I ask, sir, is there going to be a public announcement about him tomorrow? Give some details of what he's actually done, and maybe offer a reward and so on. It would help the search." Vitellius scowled. "Are you telling me your men are not capable of finding him? Do you need more? Are 3 cohorts not sufficient?" "It's not that exactly, sir. But we're not getting any cooperation from the people, and some of them do have rank, and there are going to be complaints. It would help if we were going in on more than suspicion. Nobody believes that someone who's been as quiet as Ptolemy Caesar has all these years can have anything to do with treason. Perhaps some details would help. You do not need to know any more than what you have already been told. If the citizens are not cooperative, then they must be made to obey. If they do not obey, then arrest them. That is all." After the tribune had departed, Vitellius continued to scowl moodily. As the hours lengthened, the expression was beginning to set. Why couldn't Ptolemy have simply died according to plan, he thought morbidly. He had now become a dangerously unpredictable factor merely by disappearing. he might also spoil everything by simply not being a believable traitor. The Tribune had pinpointed the trouble. Though Ptolemy had done nothing to promote his image over the years, he hadn't done anything to harm it either. He had established a reputation for fulfilling his modest responsibilities honestly and fairly, and there was the lingering mystique of his father's name. That could be dangerous. It was always the quiet ones you had to watch, he concluded, then smiled bitterly. That was a good phrase. He should have told it to the Tribune. "I suppose you think you've been very clever," said the doctor. Perry smiled broadly, even though the doctor could not see it. "You might almost say I'm preening myself in satisfaction, Doctor," she quipped. "So, it's self-mockery now, is it? You must be feeling confident." "Perry, I warned you about the dangers such a change could bring. Don't you realize your judgment might be affected? Do you know what you've done?" "Sure, I've started the ball rolling. To quote somebody not a million miles away, I thought I took advantage of the opportunity chance provided rather well. We've got to get something moving around here, and if it had been up to you and Ptolemy, you'd have been discussing political theory all night. But co-opting a gaggle of thieves. Now don't get snobby over it, Doctor. They'll do what they're told. They believe they're working under divine guidance, and they don't want to risk any divine retribution for trying any tricky stuff either. You should have seen their faces when I appeared." "Perry," asked the doctor, apparently changing the subject, "how are you feeling? Are you tired?" "Me? No, I feel just great, full of energy. In fact, I don't think I've felt this good, well, ever." She threw her arms about expressively, her wings briefly unfolding and flexing. On the screen, the doctor's features contorted into a look of deep concern. "Perry, Perry, listen to me," he spoke with fierce authority. His words calmed her, and she settled down. "Okay, I'm listening," she said, sounding more like her usual self. "I understand you are excited, even stimulated by what has happened, and I admire the way you have mastered your fear of the transformation. It is a triumph of will you can justly be proud of. Probably you feel like a hero in one of those comic books your nation made so popular, miraculously transformed in some unlikely fashion, with the power to do something previously unthinkable. But don't let it cloud your judgment. You must keep telling yourself that it is only a temporary state. It cannot last. It mustn't be allowed to last. Indeed, you are working towards its end by your recent actions, questionable though they are." "So why are you complaining then?" "Because I am worried how reverting back to normal will affect you, and the more you revel in your present form, the worse it will be. It'll be as hard to accept as the initial change was. Be prepared, that's all." Perry sighed ruefully. "Yes, Doctor, I'll be a good scout," she said quietly. "I do understand what you mean. When it comes, I'll just have to treat it like another challenge. Still, if that happens, you'll be around to pick up the pieces, won't you?" The doctor managed a look of patent displeasure. "Not something I look forward to with any great enthusiasm." Perry brightened. "Okay, now we've got the dire portents out of the way. Can we get back to the campaign to boost Ptolemy with the people? These new recruits may be crooks, but we've got 'em well motivated with the old carrot and stick routine, and I think they're as trustworthy as anybody round here. Leastwise, Alexander or any of his mob are surely not going to be looking for any fifth column down at that level, and if everything moves quickly, he'll never know what hit him." "Well, if you're certain." "Yeah, I am. And Ptolemy has caught onto the idea smartly enough. I think he's been waiting a long time to do something like this. What we still need, though, is some very showy stunt to really grab the people's attention. Pity they haven't got television yet." "I think the games are going to be the largest forthcoming spectacle where a mass of people might be suitably assembled." Where's the main venue going to be? The Colosseum? Hardly. The Colosseum was not started until AD 70. As I understand, the gladiatorial events will take place in the Arena Maximus, which is somewhat larger than the Colosseum, but in much the same site. The rest of the displays and the climactic equestrian events will be staged in its counterpart, the Circus Maximus. Chariot racing, you mean? Ben-Hur and stuff? Exactly. How big are these places? In the real world, the circus was modified and extended many times. What these particular Romans have done to it, I'm not sure. But the eventual capacity of the original was, I believe, some 250,000 seats. If the arena is larger than the Colosseum, then it might hold perhaps 75,000. That's pretty impressive. Certainly the place for any grandstand play, then... But what? She was thoughtfully silent for some moments. Over the comlink, the doctor could hear her muttering to herself. If Ptolemy can gatecrash with enough supporters, Alexander won't dare try anything, but we need a stunt. Shame he hasn't got any teams competing in the races or... Doctor, could you really beat this Gandos guy? What's going on tonight, then? The wagon driver asked of Pallius as he poured out his drink. Pallius kept his eyes low. Dunno. What do you mean? Well, they're searching all the carts leaving the city, ain't they? There's a queue backed up from the gate halfway along the Via Flaminia, ain't it? That's why I came in here. No point in getting caught up in all that. What are they after, then? Somebody stolen something? He chuckled and downed a mouthful of wine. Behind him, a shady-looking character drifted down the hole's rickety stairs, with a silent step born out of long practice, sidled over to an even more unsavoury character who had been huddled over his drink, and whispered a few words in his ear. The drinker looked puzzled, then interested, downed the rest of his drink quickly, and followed the other back up the stairs. Pallius made no comment. He'd seen this happen several times already in the last hour. There was something going on. Something big. A sixth sense warned him that it would be wise, for the second time that night, not to be too curious. Well, what do you reckon then? The garrulous wagoner persisted. Pallius fixed him with an unpleasant stare. What do you want to keep asking questions for? I don't know nothing, see? We mind our own business around here. This is a respectable establishment, this is. Yes, I should think so, said the doctor thoughtfully. But only if you're sure. No, I think I can call on enough expertise to defeat Gandos. My advantage will be that I will not actually be trying to kill him. That's an advantage? Certainly. It'll be terribly confusing for him to face somebody who ignores opportunities to strike certain blows or to respond to his advances in the expected manner. In the final analysis, I doubt whether I would be in any greater danger competing in one fight in the arena than anywhere else in the city, which, thanks to your actions, will become an increasingly volatile place over the next few days. In fact, a bold move like this may be the most direct way to achieve our ends. And also... Yes? There should be no such thing as a champion gladiator. It bestows a sense of glamour on an almost indescribably brutal public spectacle. Perhaps by defeating Gandos, this allure might be diminished slightly. Maybe it will speed the day when it finally ends and possibly save a few lives. Certainly it may save the lives of some who would otherwise have died at his hands. I know it's gruesome stuff, Doctor, but as you say, maybe it'll be finished with soon. Maybe Ptolemy will... I doubt it very much, the doctor said flatly. He is a product of this time and culture, however personable he may seem. The Romans believed it was strengthening for people to be exposed to combat and death. Remember, they built their empire primarily upon military prowess, and this helped prepare them for the inevitable costs that entailed. Even if Ptolemy wanted to, and was made ruler of the Dominion, He could not halt the games at a stroke. The masses have got used to the spectacle, and it would take a long time to find a substitute. He looked purposeful once more. However, we mustn't become downhearted. We must do our bit and hope for the best. I concur with your plan, and will fulfill my part of it. Do I take that as a yes? Themos blinked doubtfully at his surroundings. The dingy street alarmed him, and the run-down house even more so. There also seemed to be a number of suspicious characters sidling in and out of it, as though on errands of a dubious nature. He would never have come had the man who had roused him at this unreasonable hour not borne a note purporting to have been written by a doctor, which urged him to go with its bearer. It had sounded urgent, but now Themos was beginning to have his doubts. "Oh yeah, it's the philosopher, ain't it?" A small, rat-faced man greeted him with coarse amiability. "Straight through to the back room, Strabo." "Is Doctor in there?" Themos asked anxiously. The rat-faced man tapped a conspiratorial finger to the side of his nose. "Somebody important, you'll see." The huge man who had brought him ushered Themos up some rough stairs to the rear of the premises and opened a door. Inside was a lamp, a table strewn with papers, and a lean man who rose politely at his entry. "Ah, good morning, Master Themos. Forgive me for having you brought here at such an hour, under slightly false pretenses. But we do have an acquaintance in common, and, I believe, a mutual interest in the East." It was half an hour before Themos emerged, slightly dazed by his meeting. His purse was heavy with money. Firm suggestions on how it should be best spent rang in his ears, and he had a list of names. Strabo was sent away with him to make sure he didn't turn to the bottle again. After what he had just heard, he was sorely tempted. It would have been a quiet night for the City Watch if they hadn't been so busy helping the search for Ptolemy Caesar. Though the usual night people were undeniably about, the expected number of felonious incidents with which they usually occupied their time actually fell slightly. It was as though a significant number of criminals had other things on their minds. In his cell in the Praetorian guardhouse, the doctor slipped into a self-induced meditative sleep. The TARDIS was continuing to charge steadily, and Perry seemed to have everything, well, if unconventionally, in hand. Now he needed a spot of rest. He had a fight to prepare for.